welcome to the January 29th, 2025 edition of the Urban League Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series, brought to you by the National Urban League. I'm your host, Kenneth L. Johnson, president of the Harlem, New York-based diversity recruitment firm East Coast Executives. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. The Digital Career Success Series, DCSS, is a professional development series that helps members of our Urban League Young Professional chapters and other diverse job seekers develop new skill sets that will enhance their careers through digital platforms such as webinars, Facebook, and Instagram Live. The goal is to provide an opportunity for professional development right from one's computer. You want more? Visit us at nuljobsnetwork.com. Today's Digital Career Success Series, The Future of Work AI Edition, features Ashley Scott and Sashiel Willams-Nosworthy. They'll share insights on emerging careers in big tech, AI, machine learning, and of course, how to prepare for them. Ashley, welcome to the Urban League Jobs Network, DCSS.
Hi, Kenneth. How are you today?
And you know I'm excited to have you here, of course. We're on a new platform, Ash. We're working with a new platform, so this is a new look for some of our long-term viewers. But let's just talk about the work that you're doing out here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I would be happy to, and thank you so much for the introduction. Hi, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here today. My name is Ashley M. Scott, and my journey into the world of data and AI has been a driving force in who I am today. My professional role allows me to provide strategic oversight for a global food and beverage company, and here I work with teams to support their data and AI portfolio and product management capabilities, where we help to scale our digital data landscape. While my formal training has started in public health and medical education, I often reflect on my transition in healthcare and also my foundation in data. During the time of the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, I launched the Data Girl social media campaign to increase the awareness of data careers. And this has really allowed me to understand a little bit more of how to get others encouraged and motivated to learn about new careers. And having the opportunity to share some of that with you all today has really been exciting for me to learn about how we continue to coach others in this space and, more importantly, become prepared and job ready for a data-driven workplace.
Man, I'm so excited to have you here today. And you know, I was thinking about you. Our next show is on career pivots, and you really did a pivot into tech. So I'm looking forward to you sharing some of that information as we continue through with our show today. But before we get into that, let's bring our next guest to the platform. Sashiel, how are you?
Hi, Kenneth. Great to see you.
Listen, you know I'm excited to see you again. The last time we got together was in New Orleans at the National Urban League Conference, and you came to the DCSS stage, and I knew we needed to bring you back. So thank you for joining us today. Tell the audience here a little bit about yourself, please.
Yes, so thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. My name is Sashiel. I work at Coursera as a Coursera for Campus representative. The goal of my work at Coursera is to bridge the gap between higher education institutions and the workforce. So my team and I help provide the content from our industry partners like Google, IBM, Salesforce, Amazon, and we work with those institutions to embed content as for-credit offerings for students, learners, community, workforce development offerings, and we really do that to help drive student enrollments and also just to overall help educate learners. What inspired my work in tech and how I got into this role was, first, I'm truly a lifelong learner. I recently graduated with my master's degree in management. And I'm also really inspired by how transformational education and upskilling was for me. So my path into tech wasn't traditional at all. I was actually a communications major in my undergrad. And that's not to say that comm degrees are not transferable into tech, because they definitely are, but I was studying journalism and film. And what really drove me to get into my work was upskilling myself and acquiring those technological skills, which dramatically increased my employability and helped me lead my career. So I really am passionate about mission-driven work. And I've been fortunate to work as a teacher at Brooklyn College. I was then able to work at Handshake, and now my work here at Coursera. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Thank you again to the Urban League and my co-host, Ashley. I know we're going to have a good conversation today.
Definitely a good conversation. I'm excited about it. It's interesting. You spoke about, being a long-term learner and a continuous learner. And I think that's really important as we venture into tech, because when we look at some of the top emerging careers in AI and big tech, a lot of the players have came from other spaces and just started to kind of work in tech and excel in tech over, the past 5-10 years, whatever it may be. Like, that's the case for a lot of them. So let's talk a little bit about that. What are the top emerging careers? Thank you for joining us, Ash. The top emerging careers in, AI and big tech.
Yeah, so just a little more context with where I'm coming from. Every year, Coursera, we launch a job skills report, and it's basically a data-driven analysis drawn from over 5 million of our users and around over 7,000 of our institutional customers. And we look at the trends that drive the shape of our future workforce. And so generative AI remains a hot topic with a potential economic value of around 15 trillion by 2023. I'm sorry, by 2030. We're in 2025 now, but by 2030. And we believe that in order to reach that potential, it's the responsibility of us all, our government, higher education institutions, and businesses to really make those investments. So we're looking at roles like AI, machine learning, fintech engineers, big data specialists, and software application developers. We're also seeing growth in environmental roles. So thinking about environmental engineers, sustainable energy, electric vehicle specialists. So it's really showing that AI and these technical skills are not only reserved for the tech industry, but they're spanning other industries.
You know what, Ashley, I'd like to bring you in on this piece of the conversation, because as we speak about top emerging careers, you're at a humongous company. And, there are careers across the board there in all types of disciplines and verticals. And I know you made, we'll call it a pivot, but what went into your thought process when you were kind of adjusting and looking at emerging careers in tech?
That's really a great question, and I appreciate your feedback, Sashiel, in terms of the recent stats, because as you know, when we're keeping up with the latest trends, it's very important to think about where you want to see your career and where your relevant skills are. And I would say some of the things that came to mind for me were thinking about the companies that I wanted to work in particularly, and the direction where my transferable skills would be relevant. As we've seen in your experience and also in mine, if you come from what's considered a non-traditional background, there are experiences that we can also contribute and leverage with technologies and AI to help become a more transferable experience, not only for us, but learning opportunities. And even in my professional role, I've seen roles that have actually been created due to the climate and the need of the emerging markets. So I would say that if there's some opportunities that don't necessarily fit what you may be looking for, still work on the foundational expertise, because there's always opportunities where you can leverage what you know and bring those in terms of new discussions and developments within organizations.
Well, let's talk about that. It sounds like we found a sweet spot for you, because let's just go into personalized offerings, like personalized product offerings as it relates to machine learning.
Yes, and it's really interesting because as we look at the recent data and for companies who are integrating AI applications and automations, we see about roughly, and even in the US, right, 75% are currently using AI in the workplace or encouraging their teams to either get trained, go to conferences, and get involved in the discussions. And we've seen this in new applications in our everyday lives, right, where whether it was holiday shopping when we saw customized wish lists for our friends from Amazon, or maybe some of our Spotify or Apple Music playlists at the end of the year to say, okay, you listen to a particular genre of music, you may be interested in this particular artist as well, or upcoming events. And what's interesting with machine learning is becoming the foundation of how we think about our day-to-day and what makes our lives easier. And taking it full circle, there are career opportunities for folks to fill in those gaps and ensure that, again, we can have these streamlined experiences in our personal lives and also in the workplace.
Sashiel, really interesting stuff that Ash is talking about. Anything you'd like to add to that piece of the conversation?
Yeah, I definitely think personalized offerings are helping to make our lives easier. Thinking about how I'm just wrapping up being a student and how useful personalized machine learning was for my studies. When I needed to study, I would use a tool called Coursera Coach, and I could go through my material. If I needed more of a deeper understanding in that, it definitely helped me. So I've been leveraging personalized learning and machine learning as well.
So tell us a little bit about Coursera Coach. Is that an internal offering, or is that something that's external and client facing?
Yeah, so it's an AI-powered learning assistant that when you sign up, let's say you sign up right now and you want to take a Google data analytics course with Grow with Google, Coursera Coach is a tool that will be there alongside your learning. So let's say if you want to prepare for a quiz or you need more work in a certain module, you can use that learning language model and just communicate with it to study, to learn more, to figure out where you can get more information.
I love it. I love it. Listen, this is the Urban League Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series, DCSS. We're on with Sashiel Willams-Nosworthy and Ashley Scott. We're talking AI. We're talking big tech. And so we have to be talking about the skills that are critical for the future workforce. So let's kind of jump in. I know, Sashiel, you're with Coursera. You're doing some of the work. You're looking at the skills that are critical on a daily basis. You're providing platforms that allow individuals to secure said skill sets. But what skill sets are we seeing that probably should be on the radar of some of our listeners?
Yeah, so the fastest growing AI-based skills are those skills in generative AI, machine learning, applied AI. We're also seeing, again, those industry spanning roles and outside of AI, but cybersecurity, computer vision, which is basically training those AI tools to interpret images and audio. There's also a demand for deep learning, which are more advanced AI applications. And on the slide there, I know we displayed a statistic of about an 866% growth in demand on our platform for generative AI. So people are really interested in learning about how they can use AI in their day-to-day lives. Beyond that, again, risk management, cybersecurity, data science, data ethics, workplace technology, and also workforce development. We see that AI and machine learning roles are expected to grow over 40% in the next 4 years. And so there are going to be more opportunities across all industries.
You know, Ashley, I want to come off the rail here just a little as we talk about the skills that are critical. But what's the mindset that you believe individuals should take into kind of looking at where they want to go with this? I think there's so much information out here about what people need, right? You're hearing about prompt engineering and you're hearing about, user experiences and things of this nature, and even project management at a certain level, right? And you just kind of start wondering, wow, that's information overload, especially for a novice, but even for people that are very familiar with some of the things that are happening in the space. Still a lot, and it's changing by the minute, it seems like. Any advice that you have, because you've kind of taken this journey?
Yes, some of the things that come to mind is certainly adapting a growth mindset and understanding the direction of where companies are going and how you may want to be part of the conversation. Some of the things that have helped me in terms of just saying I want to feel like a fly on the wall is listening to podcasts and helping me digest the information in different ways. If I'm interested in following up with particular podcasters or maybe reading different articles, because as you mentioned, it can feel as if it's information overload, but having digestible thought pieces has really helped me to understand a little bit more of what makes sense for my expertise and how I can better position myself to add more value for companies and discussions that I'm included in. I would also say that with one of the premium offerings that companies are offering, whether it's LinkedIn or maybe as Sashiel had mentioned with Coursera, is that you can start taking these short form classes to understand a little bit more again of the foundation, specifically of specific disciplines, because it may be something a little bit more technical in terms of machine learning, or it may be something where you just want to get started on these generative AI tools. Anyone can start to get comfortable with these tools, whether it's Microsoft Copilot, whether it is Google Gemini or ChatGPT. So there are different applications that you can use and tools to help you build your confidence and become more guided in this approach.
You know, as things continue to come into the space and opportunities to gather skill sets seem to multiply, I've noticed recently, maybe within the last few weeks, that a lot of companies, including NVIDIA, they've released that they have free offerings to individuals that are looking to learn more about AI, machine learning, things of that nature. Sashiel, I know this is your area of expertise. You guys are offering those types of services, but as people start to look at ways to, I guess, acquire new skill sets, you know, what's the thinking process for you as people start to kind of come on board with just kind of learning?
Yeah, that's a great question. And to echo a bit of what Ashley said, understanding that like lifelong learning or continuous learning and having a growth mindset are going to be key to our success in the future. These technologies are getting faster. It's definitely changing the way that we think and we learn. And it's going to be a collaborative responsibility to be curious. And learn as much as you can, but as Ashley said, you know, take it in pieces. I think that we have to embrace this idea that we're always going to have to keep learning, and some things might be relevant now that might not be relevant in the past, but it's definitely going to help make you a stronger candidate. And a lot of our work is inspired by wanting to make sure that people are able to participate fully in society and feel comfortable doing that. But with AI, it's going to be a lot of discomfort. There are going to be a lot of unanswered questions, and we just have to embrace that.
You know, when we were in New Orleans at the Digital Career Success Series, you spoke about kind of people embracing change and being comfortable with it and not afraid of it, right? As you were kind of, I didn't know about your original communications background. I'm not sure I was aware of that. So as you decided that you wanted to maybe position yourself to be considered for opportunities in tech, what was that? How was that for you, just to embrace that change, maybe not knowing what to expect?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately enough, I think, again, technology and the tech industry can span different passions and interests. So I've always had an interest in education, learning, writing. I was teaching students how to write. And as I navigated higher ed, I just found a lot of disparities between what it was like for certain students after they graduated, and what their earning potential looked like and how they were navigating the workforce, what seemed like a bit on their own after college. So in studying communications, it was always my passion to do journalism and film and documentaries. But once I got out, I noticed that there was a high demand for certain skills that I had not had in my resume yet. So out of curiosity, I just decided to upskill. And through upskilling, I was able to merge a lot of my passions with tech. So as Ashley mentioned, being in healthcare previously, me being in education, I'm able to work in ed tech. There's healthcare tech. There's so many different options because it's definitely concentrating all parts of the industry.
Wow, I can appreciate it. Listen, I know we're sharing a ton of information, and I just want everyone to know that this and all of the Urban League Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series shows are available on the Urban League YouTube channel. So please do not hesitate to visit that channel. This show probably won't be available until next week, but just jump in, rewatch, and also just be mindful that the information is always changing. So with that being said, Ashley, I want to speak about bias in AI. It's something we have to talk about, right? So what are your thoughts?
It is. I think we do such a great job talking about the benefits of AI and how we can get started in this process, but we also have to know that there is a balance and we have to be mindful of the scale. Specifically with AI systems and machine learning models specifically, they can inherit bias. And one of the reasons why that happens is because us as humans, we have our own bias for particular things, and being mindful of how we train these algorithms, and think of algorithms as a set of instructions, right? We're thinking of how, when we're writing code or we're outlining step by step, we need to ensure that, again, it's inclusive of different perspectives. And one of the things that I've learned in this process particularly is that when there are challenges or maybe things that we need to overcome in businesses, that allows us to think, wow, this opens the door for new opportunities and job seekers to help solve these needs. So oftentimes when we think about AI and we say that we have so many outcomes that are a result of it, how do we, again, think about how to sustain them? And some of the new job titles, I know I talked about this earlier, have resulted because of some of these new discoveries, right? We see some of the job titles in terms of including AI ethics analyst or anything related to an AI component, which I think is pretty critical. And even in research, when we think about some of our own use cases with using AI, we've probably seen in training modules that there may have been a error or something that may have been a bug as a result of something that was not coded properly. So again, these are certain guidelines and governance tools that we can start to think about how we can become more relevant in the job market. One of the things that I've appreciated with companies now is focusing on those particular lenses and ensuring that others are aware of it as well. As you've seen in using applications, whether it's a website or maybe a mobile app, you see the notification for the cookies, and then you can read the terms and conditions. I know sometimes it's easier to just accept them, but there is a method to why those terms and conditions are there as a result of maybe just explaining some of the information that may not be communicated as well if you're just looking at the website and going through the different portals of the pages. And one of the things that I had the opportunity to learn more closely with bias in AI is when I had the opportunity to work with Olay with their hashtag Decode the Bias campaign, where we were actually looking at different ways that the beauty industry is navigating bias in their particular ways of working as well. So I would say that as you're looking for particular jobs or educating yourself, also see how companies are navigating their own ways of ensuring that there are guardrails in place. And then if that becomes a pathway for you that you become interested in, that might be a better fit or area of exploration. Because I think anytime that we see things now, we have to question it. We don't know if it's a deep fake. We don't know if the information may have been credited from an appropriate source. And that's why I always lead with always asking with questions and this growth mindset, because we are in a predicament where there's so much information coming at us at one time. It's hard to say for sure if something is truly based on the information that we are agreeing based on the particular source.
Ash, as we talk about bias and even bias in AI, and typically if you're framing that conversation, you're talking about a lack of inclusion on a lot of levels, right? Who was in the room when the software was created or the programs were created, right? Sashiel, as we kind of think about that from a career standpoint, is that why it's so important for us, and when I say us, this National Urban League audience, to be part of the conversation, part of the solution, part of the creativity that comes along with this growing AI and tech space?
Absolutely. And AI is really driven by data. There's a saying in the tech space that data is gold. And when you see biases occurring in the tools, it's only because the tools are only as good as the data and the input that you're putting into it. So there's potential for skewed, incomplete, and historically biased data. And so those AI models can sometimes mimic those patterns. It's important for us to be a part of these conversations. It's important for us to be leading in this space, because then we look at the industries that AI is emerging in: healthcare, law, policing, hiring, and HR. Right? We're seeing a lot of studies come out where people are using the same resume and maybe getting rejected by certain tools because of having a more ethnic name. And we really want to make sure that we're a part of these conversations, and that we're able to communicate effectively how we can use data and how we want to be represented in these models.
Wow, yeah, so important, and also important. Please add your questions in the Q&A. We will have a Q&A segment with Ashley and Sashiel. Listen, so as you were speaking about that, I just started thinking about individuals that are using Gemini, ChatGPT, whatever it is that they're using as a generative AI source. But sometimes people are really surprised when it sends you back information that may not necessarily be valid or true, right? So what is the thing? Do we as end users need to correct that in the system because it's a data in, data out type of thing? Or do we need to just say, oh, well, it was wrong? What's the blueprint for that? Ash?
That's a great question. I've had scenarios before playing around with different tools, and the answer I expected was not the answer that was generated as a result. And I think that's the responsibility that we have, is to guide the machine learning platforms in this case to say, okay, this is not exactly what I was looking for. Can you tailor it to X, Y, and Z? And there's even information in terms of particular prompts that individuals should use to get the outcome that they're looking for. And you even notice this too, is as you start to continue to use these particular tools, they become more tailored and in a way sort of sound as if it is your guide specifically to you. Like if someone else, for example, was to log onto your account and generate include a particular prompt, it may not necessarily fit what you would be thinking is the appropriate answer, right? So I would say that this is an opportunity for us to continue to get comfortable with using new technology, and more importantly, think about how we can, I would say, identify best practices, join community groups, or ensure that we join virtual groups as well to share what we've learned in the process. Because I think while it can feel more independent, there are communities of people that are also going through the same stages. So I think that when you're working together and working in groups, you can find a lot more information in terms of how you can accelerate this process.
That's a great point, especially when we're talking about, upskilling and lifelong learning, right? You don't have to do this alone. Am I right, Sashiel? Like there are groups and communities, as Ashley had spoke about, that can support your efforts and at least provide some guidance and maybe, even some guardrails on how you should go about learning this. And I think sometimes we look at this as an independent environment, but it's really not.
And that's a great point, because again, it's going to be required of us. So we have to take those steps to get over our initial discomfort, because it's going to be imperative to our success. You see here that around 59% of the global workforce is going to need reskilling by 2030. And that's because there are going to be disparities. So while we talk about how there are going to be an increase in job opportunities within these emerging roles and emerging skill sets, there's also going to be disparities. Skills gaps are going to widen those disparities. So using tools like Coursera, I am bias, but I definitely use Coursera to help me when I am not understanding anything. Tapping into resources like the National Urban League. I know Ashley mentioned earlier podcast. Just being curious, I think, is really going to help become more of a lifelong learner and embrace that lifelong learning. So again, key focuses that we can think about are technological literacy, data ethics, as Ashley mentioned earlier, creative thinking, and the agility in how we adapt to AI workflows. Because maybe, again, you might not be in tech, but AI is now what your manager wants you to learn how to use, or it's a new tech stack in a job application. So being prepared is really important.
So Ashley, let's talk about this. You did mention podcasts. I don't know if there are any that have been valuable to you or that you respect the information coming out of that particular platform that you want to share with us. But how do you go about continuously staying abreast of what's going on in the space?
What's funny is I've actually noticed that even if I don't independently start this journey, it actually comes my way. For example, on social media platforms, or if I'm generating content for LinkedIn, I'm now seeing integrations of AI come in terms of like appearing on my page to say, hey, do you need help summarizing this particular post that you wanted? Or in terms of helping me to generate some of the details that I have on my calendar. I noticed that if I have a text message between a friend and we're saying, okay, we're going to meet up for dinner, I get a prompt on my phone to say, hey, did you want to schedule that? And it's interesting because while I may not start the journey to say it's day one, I'm going to document or start my AI journey, it's in a way complemented through the tools and technology that I already use. So I would say that that's one aspect of it, is one, ensuring that your phone is updated so that you can get those automated AI integrations to help ensure that you're staying organized and focused. And then a second thing that has helped me as well is to participate in conferences. Last year, I had the chance to participate in 2 data and AI related conferences. And what was interesting is that I had the chance not only to hear from experts in the field, but also in terms of in the audience, ask folks as well, how did you find this seminar? What have you been using? Do you work in the AI space? And after leaving the conference, I myself had felt so motivated to say, I want to start next week with starting my AI training, and enrolled in a program at MIT. While it was self-paced, it was a great opportunity for me to, one, join a community platform, again, online, to help me with my learning, and also connect with the professors in the program to guide my learnings as well and apply that to my job.
You often hear people say that AI won't take your job, but someone who uses AI possibly will, right? And as you start to use some of the tools and resources out here just to kind of manage and I guess even improve upon the work that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, are there any learning platforms? And Sashiel, I want you to speak about the platform that you currently work for as well. But Ash, is there anything that you're using that allows you to come to speed, with some of the new skill sets that you're acquiring? Or even foundational resources?
I would say it's been a wide range of resources for me. I know that we talked about podcasts, informal virtual groups, and personal nonprofits that are tailored to AI specific trainings and learnings. I've found a great deal of these particular programs on LinkedIn and also the social groups that I follow. And I would say, as it pertains to creating these environments and also utilizing the skills that we have today, have been very fundamental in my learning.
I have a question for you. What's your TED Talk about?
My TED Talk is about 3 particular steps to help with life changes. And I would say that throughout this whole experience, this has really guided my thought process, my ability to critically assess where careers are going, and where, again, I can think about how to be of value to others and also to the job market. So that has really helped me to think about pivotal steps in helping me design the best life for me.
That's true. I know we have a slide later on that I believe offers a link to that or something of that nature. But yeah, I definitely suggest people should dive in and kind of take a listen to that. All right, Sashiel, look, as we're talking about resources, I know you guys have a ton of them. Is there a blueprint on how someone would even just, for someone that's just looking to start, someone leaves this conversation and says, hey, you know what? I probably really need to take this serious. What's going to happen? What's the next step?
Yes, so I definitely suggest hopping on to Coursera.org and playing around with the website. So we have a lot of different ways that a user can interact with our platform. I would look into some of our Grow with Google programs, some of our IBM programs, our Microsoft offerings, and just explore the site. Explore all the skills that we have. Take some time and really sit down. Think about your interest. Think about what you like to learn about, and think about ways you can enhance it through technology.
I love it. By the way, they included the web address there. Hopefully you guys can grab that. Look, thank you so very much, Dave. We appreciate you. All right. So responsible AI, that's the thing that kind of takes us hopefully where we need to go. And it kind of just allows for us to do that with some kind of peace of mind, right? So Ashley, when we talk about responsible AI practices, what are we talking about here?
I'm glad that you asked that, because as we've talked about in this session, we know it to be true now that AI is becoming more integrated into our society, and it's really essential that we continue to build AI systems that are transparent and also accountable to use. Responsible AI isn't just about ensuring that we document it, but we're actually putting into action and ensuring that it does fit the needs of our communities and also help to leverage to solve the problems that currently exist in the workplace. And I would say that this is helping to create and discuss what decisions need to be made as a result of that, and using data appropriately to build out the models. We talked about using it in terms of bias. We also talked about how we can implement AI in some of the job markets that span in terms of career opportunities, whether it's ethical AI consultants or accountability for using AI governance. And this is where we take accountability to start the training ourselves, and then also bringing others along the process, and also use our voices fearlessly to say that, hey, there's something that we need to fix as a result of a previous circumstance, and taking ownership of that process. And another way we can do that is becoming certified in these AI tools and applications, so that we can think about how we can take a stand in terms of starting the conversation.
You know, starting the conversation, oftentimes the conversation starts with people being very skeptical of the tools that are out here. I see both of you guys nodding your heads. Any advice to our audience, or just any things that you've seen, even if it's a story about someone who may have been a little reluctant to enter, which it's data for all intents and purposes, into any type of learning platform for fear of their stuff just being found in the wrong places? Any advice that we can offer?
Yeah, I would definitely echo a lot of our earlier sentiments about, recognizing bias and how they show up in AI, but also personally, how we're personally showing up as data. So again, understanding what your data footprint is and what your data profile might be when you're logging on to certain websites, when you're interacting with certain brands, when you're using social media. These brands are able to create a collective story about you. So the first thing you want to do is you want to understand that. You want to understand maybe how your algorithm came to be, and what elements could be influencing it. And you might find yourself going down a rabbit hole of what your potential data profile is. But as the technologies get more advanced, a lot of companies are able to market to you and sell to you and communicate with you based on a lot of your previous history and behavior online and through your purchasing decisions and your location. So I think that's my biggest advice, is to understand what that looks like for you.
Ash, anything to say regarding that?
Yes, I'm interested to see where AI takes us, because we're in a climate now where there's multi-generations in the workplace. We have folks that are just getting out of college, just in terms of starting their career, and then we have more seasoned professionals that have been able to see the trend of the emergence of technology, the internet, in terms of onboarding to digital ecosystems, right? And having experience in that. And that's why I would say the most important thing here is to stay curious and to continue to ask questions. I said in the beginning that in terms of the information, it can feel like overload, but ensuring that we continue to think about the big picture in mind, because our workplace is evolving. And that's one of the beautiful things in this process, is that what we learned yesterday is building up on some of those notions, and then taking insights from different groups of people to really, again, we've all seen a time where the way that we were working probably had to be migrated into maybe a new system or changed, or even in terms of understanding how we can do new tasks, right? Something that may have been relevant in one particular project might not be as utilized in a different way. And we've had these skills before, but we're just nurturing them in a different way. And I would say that that is something that is helping us to get to the place that we are now, is having the conversations, and then more importantly, addressing these challenges head on.
Exceptional. No, what, you took me right where I wanted to go. We're going to jump into the Q&A, because I was looking through some of the questions and I saw one that was really interesting for its simplicity, right? And I think it's a necessary. Where does one start? Any advice, suggestions, thoughts on something that simple?
I'll just chime in really quick. So many universities and certain state governments have partnerships with us that allow you to take advantage of some of these certifications at a lower price or for free. So I would definitely lean on higher education institutions to see what resources they have for challenging and assistance with discovering these topics. That really encompasses a lot of the work that I do. I work with colleges so that they have these tools so that they can go out and use it for the community. And of course, going on Coursera on your own as well, and other platforms similar.
You know what, Ash, I'm going to come back to you on that question, but I also wanted to I guess, chime in here while we have you, Sashiel. There was a question: does Coursera offer live and online courses alike?
So most of our certificates are asynchronous, aside from our degree offerings. And our degree offerings are in partnerships with universities where they use our MOOCs. We call them MOOCs, which is just their Coursera content, in conjunction with live sessions. So that's a different side of what we do, but most of the learning is going to be asynchronous, not live. We do have things like guided projects. So let's say you might not have a service like Python or R on your computer, but through our guided projects, you can go through it and learn at the same time.
Love it. Ash, where does someone start?
Yes. So I would say congratulations. Step one is because we have now talked about different ways of the benefits and things to consider, and the fact that individuals are interested in getting that process started is always a happy medium for me. And I would say that some of the ways that you can get started is to, one, reach out to nonprofit organizations. I know there's a AI Data for All and Data for Good, and I can also send a list of follow-up organizations that I have come across as well, if you're interested in getting started. I would say another opportunity that may arise for you is using YouTube Academy in terms of using self-guided prompts from experts that have allowed us to think about, okay, how we can get started with these AI tools. And the third one, I work with a consulting agency in terms of helping individuals in understanding how they want to jumpstart their data careers. During the pandemic, I helped to coach during a 12-week boot camp, and we're introducing offerings for AI and product management as well, and that's in partnership with Data TechCon. So if anyone is interested in that, happy to discuss that offline in terms of helping you to just start the process and understand what resources are available to you.
Amazing. Thank you so very much. That's extremely helpful. All right, so I'm pulling a question from the Q&A here. Can you share a real world example where AI bias has significant negative consequences and what was done to address or prevent it from happening again? So I'm thinking of something that happened a few years back. I'll jump in. Amazon, they had an online application process, and as they were weeding out candidates, because they took, let's just say they were looking for engineers, right? But because they took the data from years of engineers that they had hired, well, typically they were hiring men as engineers. Mm-hmm. So the data was very skewed towards male candidates being successful. So as women came into the pipeline through their system, they were kicked out because the system didn't believe they'd be successful. And I mean, it could be something as simple as they went to an all-women's college, right? Mm-hmm. Or something in that nature. Anything they saw that brought it back to this person being a woman, they would kick it out. So they had to address that, right? They found out what was happening, and they pulled that particular system and created a system based on bias that was a little more inclusive, right? I'm sorry, information that was a little more inclusive. And hence they were able to change and adjust that and start seeing more women candidates in their pipeline. So that's one I can think of. Anything that you guys have heard about or seen?
Yes, and in similar experiences I've seen for recruitment, there have been companies that have used AI for screening their candidates and ensuring that they've taken appropriate steps to making sure that their AI is trained, because there have been comments that there were some qualifications that may have been more favorable for candidates of a particular gender that did not necessarily support other groups. And I would say that in terms of understanding the companies and what they've done after that, I've seen that they have taken the steps to be proactive to avoid gender bias in their hiring process, and ensuring that even when you go through the portal to apply for particular jobs, the questions have changed since the first time that they've onboarded maybe these online tools. So I would say that it is not uncommon in industries, but once companies have been able to mitigate those particular circumstances, they have gone through the particular processes to help with that.
Excellent. Sashiel?
Yeah, just thinking back to what we spoke about earlier, there are potential biases in healthcare tech, in law, in even in ed tech, in hiring tech. So wherever there are already prevalent biases that exist in industries, those examples are just going to be reiterated as we use the tools and technology. So inclusivity is going to be a key leader in how we deploy and manage our use of these technologies.
Indeed. You know, I'm looking through some of these questions, and I want to thank our audience for providing so many exceptional resources for people to kind of tap into to expand their knowledge and skill sets. So this is amazing. Also, I saw a question here that was directly related to you, Sashiel, regarding Coursera and things that are there. So I think that it was, are there any specific courses that you recommend for getting started? With so many on Coursera and similar platforms, it can be overwhelming to determine the best starting point. Does Coursera provide any guidance or support to help identify courses that they will need to take based on their goals?
Yes, so we offer a suite called Career Academy, and it's a curated list. It's over 50 certs, and we add on to it of certifications and skills that you can go in and learn about a range of things. So I always would recommend starting with the Grow with Google certifications, specifically in data analytics, cybersecurity. It really depends on where you are in your journey and where you're working or what you're looking to get into. But if I were to start, I would start with data, learning how to communicate with data, data visualization, data ethics, data analytics. That's where I would start.
Excellent. Another question, and I don't know if the answer's here, but are HR departments inspecting and negatively viewing resumes and cover letters that are mostly AI generated? Um, that's an interesting question. You know, the applicant tracking systems are designed to, I guess, weed out some of that. But any thoughts that you guys have on it?
I definitely think if you're a recruiter, the language starts to look the same. So we have to be careful with how we're prompt engineering tools like ChatGPT and copying, pasting those exact responses into our resumes because it sort of sounds similar. So try using it as an overall outline and guide, but keep your personal voice. I think recruiters like to see that you're a human at the end of the day and that you can express yourself and explain your roles organically. So I know some recruiters do notice, and not just recruiters, but also people who engage with content as well. They can tell when it's written by a tool.
Yes.
You know, as a recruiter, we often look for items that are quantifiable and accomplishment based, right? So you're telling a story of your successes. And I think that, you know, using any machine learning tool to help you kind of refine what actually is yours is acceptable. But I think if you're not doing that, it'll be really clear to the recruiter's eyes that you may not have placed the time into telling your own story. So I think that's a valuable point for people that are looking to leverage that to be successful in an interview or just getting their application seen by a hiring manager. All right. Listen, there's so many questions here. I would love to jump through them. We're getting kind of late. I wanted to go to closing remarks, and I wanted to give you guys a little more time. I think it's such a important conversation. So with that being said, I'd like to go to you, Ashley. Any closing remarks for the audience in regards to this particular topic, emerging careers in AI and big tech?
Yes, I will advise others to continue to ask the big questions, to stay curious. And as you continue to think about this first steps in building your portfolio is to, again, participate in these AI communities. I think once we have engagement from others to see some of their pain points and leverage, again, best practices and understanding that the field is still evolving, and that's why we can become the forefronts of the discussion. So I would say that these type of opportunities are available to us, and we should make the use of it to address these challenges in the future.
You know, I want to ask you a question, actually, now that I think about it. We've spoken before, we've shared conversations in the past, and I've always admired your ability to kind of focus in on what's next. And this goes back to just you sharing with me, hey, I wanted to do this, and then you did it. And I'm like, this is amazing. I remember her telling me this in the past. What do you see as next in this space?
I would say that the next phase is thinking big picture and not saying that you feel overly confident about what tomorrow is going to bring. Anticipate the unexpected.
Okay, that's a good one. Sashiel, any closing remarks for our audience?
Yes. So AI is definitely a powerful tool, and because of that, it must be deployed responsibly. Upskilling is no longer an option. It's definitely going to be a requirement if you want to continue to progress in your career. So maybe keeping a pace with learning and set learning goals aside with your career goals.
Learning goals and career goals and kind of merging the two. Definitely, I think that's excellent advice. Thank you so very much. You know, as I thank you guys for being here today and participating. I'd also like to thank you for the way you've navigated your own personal careers. Sashiel, the work that you're doing is so important. I know you're out here providing a resource to those in need of a resource just to stay relevant and current in their career goals. So I want to thank you for that. And thank you for joining us today. Ashley, always a voice, that whole Data Girl Ash platform. I love it. I think you're doing an amazing job with that. And if you want to stay connected to Ashley, please lock in, watch the TEDx talk. She has a website, a booking site, IG, LinkedIn. These are the ways that you stay connected to a true thought leader in the space. Same as with Sashiel. If you want to just lock in, check out on LinkedIn. I just saw that she was doing amazing things, and I reached out a little over maybe about a year ago just to say, hey, I just want to learn a little more about what it is that you do and what you're doing. And what she's doing is helping a lot of us stay upskilled in a very rapidly moving environment. And please check her out on the World Economic Forum's The Future of Jobs report, sharing that information with us just to allow us to get better at the things we do here. Most importantly as well, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us for another Digital Career Success Series. I'm Kenneth L. Johnson. If you want to check in with me, please, I encourage all of you guys to connect with me on LinkedIn, because then I can introduce you to people like Ashley and Sashiel and hopefully keep you abreast of all the great things that we're doing here at the National Urban League Digital Career Success Series. Speaking of great things that we're doing, we're going to do it again, February 12th. Please join us. Next steps, master the art of career pivoting. Look, I just spoke to our two guests yesterday, and I'm super excited about the individuals that we have on for this conversation. It's going to be amazing. And they are going to bring a ton of energy. So please register to join us on February 12th for Next Steps. All right. My name is Kenneth L. Johnson. I'd like to thank the National Urban League team, the Digital Career Success Series team. We are on a new platform today. So I know it was a strain and a pull for a lot of people, but everybody chipped in and did a great job. Thank you, Julius Jones, Corey O'Donnell, Dave, everybody at the National Urban League, but specifically Wanda Jackson for believing and allowing us to do this each and every other week. Please register for our next DCSS, Next Steps, Master the Art of Career Pivoting on Wednesday, February 12th. Thank all of you for joining us today, and we hope to see you February 12th. Take care.